Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome our Montanaro home church. Let us prepare our heart to heaven. Let us sing a song. Song number 162, See Through Children's Eyes. 162, See Through Children's Eyes.
Life is pure, the world is new, the sun begins to rise. Love is here, and we are free to see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free. Why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky? Fear and doubt shall pass away, His heart no longer cries. As we can perfect our love and see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free. Why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky? Here we learn to live for all, choosing to be wise. Measure not the things you give, just see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free. Why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky? If you choose to live this way, joy will fill your life. We will give our best so all can see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free. Why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky? So the truth shall make us free. Why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky?
Thank you. Let us stand up and greet the Heavenly Father, God, and your parents. Today is August 11th, 2019, Sunday morning. Let us bow to Heavenly Father, God, and your parents. 영배. Hello. Join me in prayer. 살아계시는 하나님 아버지 참부모님 안녕하십니까? We are so grateful to come to front of you, and we will reflect the week, and we want to make new determination for the new week. Heavenly Father, we are growing, and we are learning last week, so many things happen internally and externally doesn't change so much, but the internal emotional things is feeling different. Weather was changing from high temperature to low temperature, got cold and raining, and the thunder is blowing the new fresh air in this town, the Golan. And the tree, the leaf is changing to green to orange color. We can feel the time of the changing, seasonal changing, and the feeling is changing, and more feeling of the autumn to want to read something or want to feel deeply, reflecting our heart and mind. We are grateful this time we can reflect our heart and mind and coming in front of you. Sometimes we can feel the happy, we can feel the sadness, we can feel the fear, and through your word we can receive love and righteousness and kindness. Sometimes we need to discipline ourselves and speak up to choose, and we have a challenge, but still we need the courage to speak out. Your word is giving us the light and the life. Please guide us. We can receive your word through sincere heart, understanding, and cooperate with you, and we can make grow with love and kind and righteousness and peacefulness. Thank you very much. We want to offer this time to meet with you and meet with your Son of the Christ. Christ give the truth and the love and eternal life. We are so grateful. We humbly want to receive through our pastor. Please guide his word can wake us, our heart and mind, and receive you and receive well. Please bless this time. Thank you very much. I report in the name of Rahman and Tamik Montanaro, bless Central family. Aju, Amen. Thank you. Please sit and welcome our Pastor Montanaro. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So today is August 11th, 2019, and I joined the Unification Church actually on August 12th. I met my spiritual father, and I joined 10 days later. I consider my spiritual birthday in our church, August 22nd, 1980. So I'm 39 years following True Parents right now. Next year will be my 40th year. Today I want to talk about something deep and serious called the crossroads of life and death. The crossroads of life and death. There's a great rock song called Crossroads, and it's a blues song actually called Crossroads. And the image of crossroads is in a lot of literature, and the idea of a crossroads is a place where two roads meet, right? That's a crossroads. And when you come to that place, you have a choice. Do you turn left, or you turn right, or you go straight ahead? Sometimes the idea of a crossroads is like a fork in the road, where you have a choice between left or right. And you're going down a road and suddenly you come to a crossroads. It's like a three-way, usually, in that image of left or right. Robert Frost wrote about that. two paths diverged in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. A famous line from Robert Frost's poem. Many times in one of the blues songs, many times they talk about meeting Satan at the crossroads. That you come to a crossroads and Satan is there, and Satan at the crossroads, Satan tries to get you to make a damaging deal to your life. Satan always offers people wealth and power and fame, knowledge and popularity and comfort. And then you have a choice, and many people sing songs about how they sold their soul to Satan, and then the rest of their life was successful but empty, and finally at the end of their life they feel like they're frightened, and they realize that they made a mistake. Literature and music, art are filled with images of this idea of the crossroads, or meeting Satan, or meeting God. This idea of a choice, the choice we make as human beings. And religion affirms that idea of choice, the idea of free will. Even the original fall story in the Bible, which is believed by Christians and by Jews and by Muslims, they are all people of the book, which all recognize the story of Adam and Eve and the archangel. Usually it's recognized as an archangel, and some people take it literally and believe that the snake, a serpent, tempted Eve to eat the fruit. But basically that story is believed by most religions of from the Middle East. The idea of Adam and Eve, the first human ancestors. We've talked about before how other cultures have an Adam and Eve story. Even the Greek culture with Pandora's box, right? She was the first woman, and then the gods gave her a box and told her not to open it, but her curiosity overcame her. She opened the box, and all the evils of the world came out. And then she shut it quickly, leaving one thing inside. You remember what that one thing was in the Pandora's box? Hope. Hope was the last thing left in the box. Obviously, it's a symbolic story. There's stories of the Aboriginal culture in Australia, the dream time. The first human ancestors were told not to go out in the desert, in the great outback. And they did. They disobeyed the commandment. They went out, and they were swallowed by a giant serpent. And when the serpent spat them out, they had become evil. And all the evil entered the world from that point. It's very interesting that the Aboriginal culture was cut off about 30,000 years ago from the mainland of Asia. And so it developed quite uniquely, quite separately, and yet they still have a similar story to the Adam and Eve story. So something happened in the distant past which separated us from goodness and from God, or from our original nature. And also there always is this reference to a serpent or a snake. And the Bible in Revelation chapter 12, it says that ancient serpent, the great dragon, was thrown down, who was called the devil and Satan. He and all his angels were thrown down with him. So he's the leader of angels. So if something is a leader of angels, we would call him an archangel. And the Bible also refers to the archangel Lucifer, the angel of light. And so most Christians believe that the serpent is a symbol of Lucifer, the angel, and that he became Satan. So anyway, we look at that distant story and we ask, is that relevant to my life? But actually, you are Adam, you are Eve. Nothing I can do as a parent, and for you as my physical children or my spiritual children who are watching online or who are here in Gorham, I can't do anything when you reach that crossroads of life and death. No one can make that decision for you. No one can choose for you. I can pray desperately with tears that you make the right choice, but I can't choose for you. And ultimately, you have to go to that crossroads. I can't even protect you from the crossroads. I can't even say, go this way, that way you'd avoid Satan. This road over here goes the right way and will not take you by Satan's crossroads. But actually, You're destined to meet Satan. You're all destined to meet Satan. Everyone at home, you're all destined to meet Satan. You must meet Satan. Many times I talk about God and meeting God, and that's an important thing. But you cannot meet God until you have met Satan. God will try to guide you even now, even before you meet Satan, because he wants to protect you and he wants to make a relationship with you. But even God knows that you must meet Satan before you can really come to know God. That's a serious message, isn't it? That's not lighthearted. I don't say those words with a light heart. You must meet Satan. You will meet Satan. Not just must, you will meet Satan. Satan does not come to us always, with horns and a tail and an evil expression. That's scary. And that kind of frightening image of Satan is real. I have actually seen that Satan in my life. In reality, actually, in my room, right after I dropped out of college. Standing at the foot of my bed, looking at me. With an evil, just emanating evil. And his mind was saying to my mind, I own you, you can't get away. And I jumped out of fear, I screamed actually. And he disappeared. He was standing at the foot of my bed. But that's not the Satan I'm necessarily talking about. That Satan is easy to run away from, or you want to run away from. That's Satan. That's Satan's true image, actually. But he doesn't show his true image to you. When you meet Satan, he comes usually for a woman as a very handsome man. For men, he comes to us as a woman, a beautiful woman often. Satan comes to us in a form that attracts us, and especially, and Father revealed this, and this is Father's greatness as the second coming of Christ. Father revealed the fall was not just a temptation to eat a fruit from a tree, but that the fruit and the tree symbolize Eve's love and Eve, respectively. And that eating the fruit meant eating the love of Eve, or having sex with Eve. So Lucifer and Eve had a sexual relationship outside of the principle, because he's an angelic being, he's not a human being, and he was not her intended spouse. And so having sex with him violated principle. It violated the order, the natural order that God had created. It violated her heart, and it violated God's heart. And it damaged her heart, and it damaged God's heart. It damaged the heart, and then Adam's heart also. Because he didn't know necessarily about it right away, but he came to understand that his wife, the one that God had given him, was in love with somebody else. And he was hurt and angry. And he fell with her. He had a sexual relationship with her, but that relationship was fraught with anger and resentment and recrimination and hostility. And that has passed on to us to this day. You inherit it. You are the fruit of that sin. We are all the fruit of that sin. You inherit that. That anger, that resentment, that hostility between the sexes. It isn't cleared up until it's cleared up. I can't lie to you and tell you, oh, it's all peachy and rosy and clean. It's not. You will meet Satan. You will have to go to the crossroads and go through that same point that Eve went through if you're a woman, that Adam went through if you're a man. You will be tempted to fall. Because we know the principle, because we know truth, because of Father. Now, not everyone knows Father, and Satan has done a very good job of turning people's hearts against Father. Right? How many people have heard negativity about the Moonies or about Reverend Moon? How many people have a hostile attitude toward Reverend Moon and Father? But they don't know anything about him. But they have heard, something's wrong. 2,000 years ago, do you think Satan did the same thing to Jesus?
Yes.
Do you think the people were welcoming Jesus with open arms? Come, teach us, Jesus. You're the Christ. Teach us your truth. Save us from Satan and sin. Do you think anyone welcomed Jesus? Even his own disciples turned against him, betrayed him. And they were the best of the people that were around Jesus. His own disciple, Judas, betrayed him, sold him to the Romans for 30 pieces of silver. His own disciple sold him for 30 pieces of silver. And then, regretting it, he hung himself in a field he bought with those 30 pieces of silver. Do you think they met Satan? His disciples? Did Jesus meet Satan? Yes. He went out in the wilderness to pray when John the Baptist had failed to unite with him, because he knew he had to now take on the role of John the Baptist and blow his own horn, so to speak. And a very difficult course was waiting for him now. And he fasted and prayed for 40 days and nights in the wilderness. Father did a 40-day fast. He actually extended it 15 days to 55 days fasting, just water, so that we could have a reduced kind of condition to meet him and to meet Jesus. Instead of having to do a 40-day fast ourselves, he asked us just do 7-day fasting. And then you can have that condition can be met and you can meet me in that realm of having separated from Satan, at least temporarily. So we do a 7-day fast. I did actually 4 times. I did a 7-day fast. One time I did a 15-day fast. People are shocked. Ooh, that's amazing. My mother did a 22-day fast. Just for yoga. She didn't do it necessarily because she understood what we're teaching and she was following the principles of yoga, but she did a 22-day fast. You'll live. You'll live. But by 40 days, you can actually get damaged and die. Some people have died trying to do that. And Father did it 55 days. And Jesus did a 40-day fast. So don't think that's some mythological thing. That happened. This man, Jesus, fasted for 40 days in the desert, in the wilderness. And at the end of it, Satan came to him. And Satan offered him rocks and said, if you're the Messiah, take this stone and make it into bread to feed your hungry stomach. And Jesus took the stone and said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And that temptation, the first temptation, symbolized the first blessing that Adam had lost in the Garden of Eden, to be fruitful, to become a man of God. Mind-body unity. When the Israelites were leaving Egypt, they complained bitterly against Moses. They even tried to kill Moses because they wanted to go back to Egypt to fill their stomachs. They said, at least we were not starving in Egypt. Let's go back to Egypt. And we can have watermelon, and we can have cucumbers, and we can have food to fill our bellies. And they wanted to kill Moses. And Moses struck a rock in the wilderness. And that rock gave forth water. And so they would stop complaining. The dead rock, without water, without life, was symbolic of Adam, who had fallen and become a dead, non-living, not a spiritual life. When Moses struck the rock in the wilderness and it gave water, then it symbolized Christ. And the Israelites drank from the water and they stopped complaining for a while. Then they began complaining again. After 40 years in the wilderness, they came to Kadesh Barnea, and again they were complaining. Let's go back. Let's kill Moses. Let's elect a new leader, and let's go back to Egypt. And again Moses struck the rock, another rock, and to bring forth water. But Moses got angry, and because it wouldn't come out right away. The water didn't come right away, and he struck the rock again. And then water came out. But then after that, God appeared to Moses and said to him, because you did not honor me in the eyes of the people, you shall not enter the land that you have worked so hard to enter, Canaan. And he died in the wilderness, Moses, because he struck the rock twice. Why was that such a great sin? Because once he struck the rock, once, it again symbolized Adam, fallen Adam, becoming Christ. But by striking the rock a second time, he was striking Christ. And setting a condition that if the people should fall into faithlessness at the time of Jesus, he might be struck by Satan and killed. And so that rock became in the possession of Satan. And so Satan had to, because Jesus had fulfilled the condition of the 40-day fast, Satan had to give him back the rock. But watch what he does. He says, he gives him the rock and he says, turn it into bread. Feed your stomach. Just like the Israelites, in order to feed their stomachs, were complaining and violating their faith in God. And Jesus said, thou shalt not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And he didn't turn the stone to bread, and he became the owner of the stone. So he restored that stone that Moses had lost. And then Satan takes Jesus and puts him on top of the temple and says, if you're the Messiah, throw yourself down, for is it not written, he shall send angels so that you shall not even stub your toe? And Jesus said, thou shalt not tempt the Lord your God. I'm not going to tempt God by throwing myself down. But that was also symbolic, because now the temple is the church, the head of all the Israelites. So Jesus, he puts Jesus at the head of the church. He's saying, now that you fulfill the first blessing, the second blessing, to multiply and fill the earth, to be the head of the family of man, he gave him the position by putting him on top of the church. But he says, throw yourself down. And Jesus says, no, thou shalt, don't tempt the Lord your God. And then, by passing the second temptation of Satan, Jesus is then now the owner of the second blessing, to multiply and fill the earth, and to be the head of the church. And now, Satan takes him and puts him on top of a high mountain, and shows him all the kingdoms of the world, and says, if you will fall down and worship me, I will give all of this to you. And then Jesus answers, you shall serve the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. He again answers him, quoting the Bible, quoting the Old Testament. And he's saying, I'm only going to serve God. And he's also scolding Satan, because now by fulfilling the third temptation, to be which is the third blessing, to have dominion, right, over all things. So he puts him on top of the mountain and gives him the temptation of dominion, because he already earned it. It is his. He put him on that position because he had to. Now Jesus has fulfilled the three blessings, and now he's standing on top of the mountain, and he's looking at the kingdoms of the world, and Satan says, I'll give all this to you. And it's a lie, because he already owns it. He already is in possession of it. By fulfilling the three temptations, and by fulfilling the 40-day fast, he became the owner of the three blessings, to be fruitful, to multiply and fill the earth, and have dominion over all things. He is now true Adam. And he set all the conditions necessary to be true Adam. And now Satan has to honor him that way. Satan will have to honor you if you overcome his temptation. He has to put you on top of the mountain. He has to honor you and put you on top of the temple. He has to give you the stone. He has to recognize you as a true person. But he's not going to do it for free. He's going to tempt you. And then he's also scolding Satan, saying, because I now am in position of dominion, you should worship me. You should bow down before me, because I am a true son of God. And the angels were created as servants and messengers. I am created, and all of us are created as God's sons and daughters. We're God's children, not servants, not messengers, God's children. And that's finally why you must meet Satan. You must meet Satan. You must go to the crossroads and you must meet Satan, because you must overcome Satan. You must overcome Satan with the truth and with love. And become, through that challenge, that thing that even Jesus had to go through, Father had to go through, and you must go through, you must become recognized by Satan as God's son or daughter. God wants you as his sons and daughters. That's already his heart towards you. But because we inherit from Adam and Eve that same desire to fall, that sexual desire, that improper desire for love. You must meet Satan, and by meeting Satan, overcoming Satan, it will clean out your own heart. It's the only way. It's the only way. There is no other way. You must meet Satan, and you must overcome Satan. And I can't protect you from that. And as a parent, that's the most painful thing. For God, that's the most painful thing, knowing that his children have to confront the enemy. Have to overcome the enemy. And that God can't do anything about it. God couldn't help Jesus in that moment. It was only after he overcame the 3 temptations, and when he said the final words, "Thou shalt serve the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve," right? And when he said those words to Satan, Satan vanished. And then angels were sent by God to minister to him, the Bible says, bringing him food and water and everything he needed to take care of his body and to protect him. You must meet Satan. You must overcome the temptation of Satan. So that's why we are destined, all of us, to walk to the crossroads of life and death. And there's nothing I can do to protect you from that. I can't guide you to some road that doesn't go there. There is no other road. That's the road to meet God. That's the road to your own destiny as a true son or daughter of God, is to go through Satan. That's the crossroad. As children, you're born in a family and your parents try to protect you. That's a parent's heart, is to protect you. But I would be a bad parent if I didn't tell you where you're headed. And there's nothing I can do once you hit your teens and 20s. You're going to be on your own. You're going to want to be on your own. You're going to want to walk to that road. You want to actually meet Satan. Because you know in your heart that's the only way you can meet God. In your heart of hearts, you know what I'm saying is true. You know that you must meet Satan and must overcome Satan. You want to. You want to do that because you want to meet God too. You want to become God's true son or daughter. And so you want to meet Satan and overcome him. But it's not fun. It's not fun. It's heavy, it's serious, it's life and death. It's life and death. Because if you accept the temptation of Satan, you'll be led astray. And it will take you years to get back. And your life will be damaged, and you will leave damaged results. And that's the story of another sermon. I don't want to talk about that. I think you can use your imagination. And you can study history. Because most of us have walked with Satan for most of our lives. If we look at history, we see the history of people walking with Satan. If you want to leave Satan, you have to go through the crossroads of life and death. And not turn to the left or right, but go straight to meet God. That's my message for today. Do you want to add anything? All right. Do you guys want to add anything? Does anyone want to say anything? Let's say a prayer together. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so much. Today's message is rather strong and deep and sort of, not heavy, but strong. We cannot avoid meeting Satan. If Jesus couldn't avoid meeting Satan, if Father couldn't avoid meeting Satan, there's no way we're going to avoid meeting Satan. In fact, we're walking with Satan until we actually confront Satan and overcome Satan. We're actually walking with him, even though we're not necessarily aware of it. So, Father, the crossroads is actually the place where Satan is revealed to us, and we make a decision, Father. So we should welcome the crossroads of life and death. The crossroads where we confront and meet Satan and overcome Satan and walk on to meet you, Father, and become your true sons and daughters who can embrace you 100% with 100% of our heart. I pray that we can give 100% of our heart to you and not give even 1/10 of 1 millionth of 1% to Satan, but that we can cleanse our hearts from Satan, and walk with you, Father. I ask your blessing on this day. I offer everything in the name of Raman and Tamiko Montanaro, a blessed central family. 축복 중심 가정, 라만과 타미코 몬타나로 이름으로 보고 드립니다. 아주. 아멘. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Rama.